Marching together to victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
The second hour of that thing we call the Ocelli Effect, beginning here on American Freedom Radio at AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And we do welcome you no matter how it is you are encountering this. You may be hearing it at Ocelli.com. And if that is true, you'll be able to click on a little thing called Nutshell, which was produced almost entirely by the person that's going to join us here in the second hour. And Sherry Wisdom is still with me. She joined us a little late in the conversation, probably because who knows what was going on with Skype earlier or whatever. But Sherry is in fact with us, so the resident witch is on board.
I've been so quiet today.
Yeah, what'd you think of the intense conversation, though, between myself and Mark in the first hour?
It was intense. I was listening, and it seemed, it was great conversation. I learned some stuff. I had some questions, but it seemed like you guys were on quite a roll, and so you guys should maybe continue that, and give people an opportunity to learn a little bit more. But you guys just kind of went back and forth with a lot of good information, so keep doing that.
Well, I think we're going to actually go into a little sub-series about the City of London and the difference between the City of London and London, and talk to people about the Roman structure and exactly where your governance really emerges from. I think we'll get into that, and we'll continue to break down the news and the media and all of the prerequisite stupidity that comes along with assuming things are absolutely true or not based on nothing. We're going to get into that a lot more. I think
that's kind of what I'm finding about everything. I feel like, Chuck, to be honest with you, is that every direction I really dive into, as soon as I become convinced I know the answer, or, oh yeah, that's what it is, something pops up to at least make me question what I have believed. And this whole thing with Antarctica and Russia and the involvement with China and the U.S. I really have to wonder about this one world government and how long it's been in play, because that seems more prevalent.
Well, see, that's one aspect of it, but then again, there is the social engineering aspect of it. And, yes, indeed, these things all do converge into one particular area, but I think making people aware that they're not thinking for themselves when they're making certain assumptions is a worthwhile exercise on this show, and something that Mark is extremely adept at. Now, meanwhile, when you take a look, even if you go back, because people think this is a new thing, when you go back, you remember seeing those old movie footage things where it was like, here's the news, the old newsreels, right? You've seen these things before in documentaries and stuff, right, Sherry?
Sorry, yes, I have. I was muted.
But there's the famous footage of, like, say the Hindenburg burning or whatever. But sometimes there's other historical events that are allegedly captured on film that they show you in these black and white newsreels, and there's a narrator and all that. Turns out that when you start to talk to some of the people who worked along with that agency that produced that stuff, that the government was involved with sometimes, that was pushing propaganda, that was helping to recruit people so they could make, the commercials for Popeye to support World War II and for Mickey Mouse to do pro-America commercials and things like that in the movie theaters. Those very same people would admit in their books and in deathbed confessions quite often that they staged events, fabricated that film, everything else. So when you look back at allegedly documentary footage, in some cases you have to look at it with a very discerning eye.
Which is concerning when you're talking about the stuff that I've been watching with Hitler and the spacecraft and all the different things. It does make you wonder how much of that is not photoshopped, obviously, but the same kind of thing.
Well, right. The black arts of Hollywood, are something that existed long before Photoshop. But we'll tell you again, and here's the fun transition, right into Daniel Lewis Crumpton, because after all, he did assemble the Nutshell documentary, which sort of explains the headspace from which I do this show. Best I can explain it. I can't even explain the documentary, and I'm the featured element of it. But Daniel put all that together. And Daniel, you will say that there wasn't a lot of staged events there. Where we started fabricating things so that we could prove points. A few things were obviously somewhat choreographed because, you decided to shoot film at certain times and you asked questions, which you cut out. So I'm responding to things that you were saying, stuff like that. Although your questions do remain in the film in some spots, things like that. But as somebody who has the ability to use some of these toys today to put film together, it's pretty interesting to take a step back and say to yourself, you know what, I got to question everything I see, and I've got to question everything I hear, and I've got to question, hell, everything. It's an odd place that we find ourselves in, is it not? And of course, Daniel Lewis Crumpton is the guy behind downloadedcontent.com, a writer, the book that is out there that you can get from Amazon or from downloadedcontent.com, I think directly, is Then Came the Flood. He's been on the show many times. He's done radio shows and he's currently doing podcasts of his own. And sometimes, hey, even this show ends up in podcasts. So, Daniel, are you still awake?
Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Lyrics reversed. If you got a big, let me search it and find out how hard I gotta work ya. Lyrics reversed. I'd like to get to know ya, so that I could show ya. Put the pussy on ya like I told ya. Give me all your numbers so I could phone ya. Your girl actin' stank, then call me over. Not on the bed, lay me on your sofa. Phone before you come. I need to shave my choker. You do or you don't, or you will or you won't. Go downtown and eat it like a vulture. See my hips and my tips, don't ya? See my abs and lips, don't ya? Lost a few pounds in my whips for ya. This the kind of beat that goes ra-ta-ta-ta, ra-ta-ta-ta, ta-ta-ta-ta. Sex me so good, I say. Blah, blah, blah. Work it. I need a glass of water. Boy, oh boy. It's good to know ya. Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Lyrics reversed. If you got a big, let me search it and find out how hard I gotta work ya. Lyrics reversed. If you a fly gal, get you. That's it, dude. I'm done. The gag's over.
Okay. Yeah. No problem. Listen, flip it, sip it, and trip it. It's fine by me. I wasn't
quite sure where that was going, Daniel. Jesus, I was like, am I supposed to be like recording this? What is going on here? Is this part? Because I was reading some of your material earlier, and I told you that I think you should podcast it with reading it instead of writing it. And you were like, no, I'm probably not going to do that. But then you just did part of it.
An audiobook?
Yes, don't you think, Chuck?
So my reading of Missy Elliott's Work It now qualifies me to do an ebook?
I'm thinking. Right, Chuck? Don't you think he should do that instead? Wouldn't you rather sometimes, listen to how character he goes in with every single aspect of the story. So you could imagine what he would do while he's reading especially like the stuff that you guys wrote together and all of that. That would be really cool.
See, I went with that until he mispronounced the word chocha.
It's
chocha? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, getting serious.
I can't say anything about that because I just hack everything.
Yeah. Nutshell.
Oh, well.
Yeah, man, dude, y'all were talking about that mess. Okay, y'all were talking about, the historical records and like the Hindenburg crash and World War II footage and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then if you're going to pose the question, do you think maybe the government staged some of that? All right, well, reverse engineer that or fast forward engineer that and look at Facebook. Everybody's that's with just limited editing technology, everybody changes the facts, don't they? And do you really think that what you're seeing from stock footage from the moon landing or any world war or any big political assassination, you don't think that's doctored? You can't even not doctor your own Facebook page. I'm even guilty of that,
You see my picture or something graphic with my brand on it. That's photoshopped. Everybody does it. So to not think that history is skewed by the cutting room floor, you'd have to be out of your gourd.
Well, yeah, that's the reality of it, is that we've gotten to a place where everything is shuffled and rearranged, and the authenticity of the original is completely obfuscated just by its existence. We've gotten to that area, right, where, I mean, how many people do you think? I mean, look, you and I know people, and I'm not going to mention names here because I don't want to call people out, but you and I know people that have Facebook pictures.
Yeah.
They don't have a brand on them. Okay, they're not somebody who's doing media or constantly trying to push a particular brand name or anything like that. But you and I both know people with Facebook pictures that do not resemble the reality in any way, shape, or form.
Preach it, brother.
that need a little stamp on it. That objects may appear. Insert the adjective much thinner than they actually are, much prettier than they actually are.
Dude, look, if the poster if the poster in the background says like Duran Duran or Wham, it ain't true. All right. All right.
Well, now that's using a dated piece. That's another thing. It's like, gee, how old is this woman? She looks like she's about 20, and meanwhile, wait a minute, when did Jordache jeans go out of style? It's something, right?
And hey, you know what? And you know what? Hey, and I'm not.
Is that a Nintendo? Is that a Nintendo 64 on the table there? I'm not sure.
But hey, and that's cool. Hey, man, I'm not bashing that. Okay, if people want to do that, that's fine, because how many other opportunities before social media have you gotten to portray yourself as the Matrix would say, residual self-image? You know what I mean? So,
residual. That was so politically correct.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try. But you know what I'm saying? So I'm not bashing it. I get it, because we all wear a mask. There's no place where you can really take your mask off to everybody unless you're just completely alone. You know what I'm saying? So I understand it. But it's like some people do it to deliberately deceive, okay?
Well, but wait, let me argue with you for a second, because quite honestly, every once in a while in life, you encounter someone, and it is rare. It's more rare than they tell you love is, right? That you don't have to engage in any of that. Now, you go through a time period where you do anyway, because we all have self-defense mechanisms where it is we don't want to expose vulnerabilities, et cetera, right? And some of it might be about, the sculpture of one's body. It might be about one's particular abilities. It might be about their prowess in particular areas, whatever it may be. There is always a disingenuous piece to that puzzle, which is presented to somebody, usually for the protection of the individual, because they don't want to come off as, gee, I don't want to seem like I'm this stupid. I don't want to seem like I'm this fat. I don't want to seem like I'm this whatever, right? And but there are people that you do encounter where you do discover eventually that the mask is not necessary.
Yeah.
Because there is this thing called judgment, which is not levied against you constantly. You may be judged for your actions, but you're not judged for the content of your character, let's say, right? Which is weird, because, anybody, if they're being entirely honest, and this is something that almost nobody does, but anybody who's being entirely honest, guaranteed there's some despicable aspect of your character. Okay? I mean, I don't, make it a mission to hide the despicable aspects of my character on this show, but the thing is, what? Wait a minute. Did Sherry just grunt like as if... No. Hold up. Am I being called out by Sherry Wisdom that I do tell? Go ahead.
And in this corner. Ding, ding.
And so, well, I mean, I'm just going to say that you are much, well,
I am not interfering with her statement here. I know.
I'm trying to filter myself so that I don't put myself in a hot seat where it can come back and slap me in the face.
Oh, no, 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 no. See, this is the hour where Daniel's on the show with us. So you need to remove the filter. Let's go.
Well, I'll just say this. When we're all talking and we're really talking and we're talking about these subjects, they sometimes get heated and we're all, you know, cussing and flying stuff all over the place that's crazier than most and all of that. We would never do that on the air. Well, I don't you don't like that.
No, I don't, because I'm simply trying to get the points heard, but I'm not filtering it like as in I'm changing. Like if I'm intense about something, simply because I didn't use the F word does not mean that, that I'm not being intense about it. I think I make that point without having to resort to that.
I think, well, the distinct difference, okay, this is the distinct difference between the Ocelli effect and, say, what my podcast is. You, I mean, nobody really gives too awful much of a crap about the personal lives of Daniel Crumpton, Sherry Wisdom, or Chuck Ocelli. So that whenever we're off the air and we're just, rah, doing our thing, nobody cares about that. It's not really going to uplift anybody or change anything. So
Right.
Ocelli effect's not the avenue for that. Okay, it doesn't mean that we're faking. Okay, it doesn't mean that we're putting on a mask to deceive, but we've all consciously said, okay, at this point in time, we're all going to be on the Ocelli effect. We understand the purpose of the Ocelli effect, which is to reach a broader audience. You know, take our.
I'm in conflict, Daniel, I'll be honest with you. And this has been a hard thing for me because I have two sides that I've been trying to play for such a long time, as far as being in the legal field and then, being in my own business and then the radio shows and then elemental evolution and all of these things. So I'm known in both sides, and I've really I'm trying to let go of a lot of the legal and a lot of the lawyer side of myself, I guess. But what I'm finding is that it doesn't give me as much validity, and the topics where normally I would be considered an expert, all of a sudden it's turning into something where it's not that my opinion doesn't matter, because like you said, I don't think anybody really cares what we're thinking, personally or whatever, but it seems that the more I step out of these roles, the more that coming into this, I don't want to say conspiracy, because to me it's more about the truth and living in the truth, not accepting the money system, not doing the things that we've, stood up against.
Mhm.
All of a sudden you take a different seat
Mhm.
in society, in the roles that we play, and it's kind of interesting for me, I guess, to just watch how it has shifted, and where, again, like I said, where it used to be I was considered an expert in certain fields because that's what I did, that's what I still do,
Mhm.
but now, because I'm not holding that title, I am no longer playing that role, and so it's not seen the same. Does that make sense?
It does. Can I give a personal experience that happened to me this week?
Yeah.
Okay, to kind of maybe allegorize what we're all talking about. So I've always been a spiritual guy. I just I've been on a spiritual quest, and then so it's never really mattered to me about what the world says my spirituality is or my role within my spirituality. But so I went ahead and went through the process of getting an ordination to be a minister. Okay. And so then you get your certificate. Sherry and Chuck, I think both of you know what I'm talking about, because I think we're all ordained ministers, right?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I don't know if Sherry,
I
I don't
am,
know if I
yes.
ever asked.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you got
Yeah,
three
I am.
ordained ministers here, and we all got a certificate, and it's cool and it's cute, and you put it in a frame, but you're still the same person before you got that certificate. What was it that suddenly now you're a minister? Is it that piece of paper, or is it the people behind that piece of paper that approved you to be that person and allow you that identity? When did that really happen? And so I kind of put that on the back burner, and then I had the honor. It blew me away, dude. This week I had a very good friend of mine come and ask me, "Hey, can you marry us?" They're going to get married, Monica and Justin, and congratulations to them. Shout out. But they asked me, so I've been asked to perform my first wedding. And then it really sunk in. Like yesterday when I said, well, y'all going to have to give me some time to think and meditate on this, because I don't really know. And I stopped to think about that. You know what I mean? And allow that to sink in. That who gives a shit? Excuse my language. I'm sorry, Chuck. Sorry, please forgive me. Who cares if the piece of paper was on the wall, or there was a panel of people or a school that you went through that gave you that piece of paper? When do you become recognized as whatever identity you're having? Is when others perceive you that way, or when is it? So it's like I'm thinking about, okay, well, how do you do a marriage? How am I supposed to present myself? What is my role spiritually? What am I supposed to do beforehand? Am I supposed to fast and pray for like 40 days and 40 nights? But I don't know what to do. I want to make sure that it's right. I don't want it to be just ritual. This is two people getting married. You know what I'm saying? And they came to me. So it's like, and then when I'm not thinking about that, I'm just Daniel at the house, like a regular person, like everybody else. And who's the real me? And you get into these types of questions. But one of the greatest philosophers that I know of always said it's not who we are on the outside, but what we do that defines us.
Mm.
So $5 to anybody who knows what philosopher that is out there, by the way.
Well, I could meditate on that, but I'll leave it open for somebody else to come up with that answer. I think I know.
It was Batman.
But
It was Batman. Batman said
yeah,
It's Batman.
Still.
But here's the thing about that, what you just said, because I confronted the same problem years ago when people came to me, and this is before I had an objection to the idea of acquiescing to the state in order to allow them into your marriage contract, and going through all of that before I ever came to that realization, right? I took the attitude of I needed to sit down and counsel the two people that wanted to do it. And the reason why I needed to counsel them was to be sure that they had an understanding of what it is they were asking me to assist them with. And that was what it was about for me, is serving in the role that they required me to serve in. And that's what I chose to be as a minister of sorts, is someone who would serve people that required that service. And again, I'm not a minister in the Christian sense. But either way, this is the way I took the responsibility, is that it was my responsibility to bring them to the point on the path that they wanted to go to. If it was about filling out the government forms, then I would do that. If it was about, making the serious spiritual commitment and having it be representative to what their belief systems were, I was willing to do that as well.
Right.
And it didn't matter what my beliefs were. It didn't matter. All I was there to do was to serve them in the most specific way that I could, period. And that's how I resolved all that in my mind, is that was what my purpose was. If you were to sit and think that this should be, you've heard of the typical Christian reality about how the ring, signifies the marriage to not only between the two people, but the marriage to the Holy Spirit and all of that. And how this is like the third person in the marriage is God, right?
Yeah.
This is not something that I find illegitimate. To allow, I think that should be not just part of that ceremony. And that would be where I would counsel them and say, look, it's not just on this one day. Okay. But if you're talking about being part of a never ending cycle and a never ending circle, and this is your symbol for it, then consider that. That it's not merely about the fact that, you're feeling good about each other right now, but you're talking about making this other commitment too.
Yeah.
And bring all of those aspects in. And meanwhile, this isn't even part of my belief system. My belief system runs a little differently than that. But that's the way I felt about it.
Well, see, here's three things I asked. I said, the first thing I asked was, or said was, I'm going to need to speak with the two of you. I never thought anybody asked me to marry him. I mean, I don't have a church, for people who believe like I believe. So it's like, there's no congregation, but whatever. But I'm like, I'm going to need to talk to you two guys. And out of instinct, that was me knowing that I don't want to, this is not supposed to be just a horse and pony show or whatever you call it. A horse and carriage show, pony show. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a
It's
show.
a dog and pony show, you mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
because I'm going to tell you, marriage is a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing when two people commit to each other, you know, and it's not based off of a survival or, whatever. You know what I mean? The shallow stuff. When two people really genuinely are in love, man, that's a beautiful thing to see. It really, really is. And we could joke about, men and women and all that good stuff in marriage, and that's great. It's good to laugh about. But when two people really, really love each other, you know, it's a beautiful thing, and you don't want to see that fall apart due to lack of maintenance, upkeep, and you don't
Well,
want to see
right.
that fall apart because of spiritual stuff.
And you also don't want to see it rooted in, the grand contract, which I talked about on this show many times, and I talk about to people in real life, and I do.
Mm-hmm.
That what, if it's just a contractual agreement, then be honest about it.
I mean, come on.
If that's
How
what it
many
is.
people out there? I have yet to meet anybody who's been through a separation or a divorce or a breakup who has not said that at one point during a heated discussion, this statement has come out. Our marriage is nothing but a business arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
I have,
Right.
and I thought that sounds like a weird statement, but it's a common statement. And so, as them coming to me with that, I was like, I don't want that. I want them to understand what this is, man. Marriage is every day. Okay.
Right.
Every day. It ain't just one day.
Right, you're telling me every freaking day. They really need to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's every day and it's every way too, because look,
Every
it's not
day,
just
every way, no 3-day, nothing.
And I'll
it's
tell you
not
another
just
thing too.
yeah.
What
Mm-hmm.
part of till death do us frickin' part do
Oh
you
my
not
God.
understand? If you don't
Well,
mean that, like if you
mm,
literally you don't mean that, you better reconsider, in my opinion. Till death. Do you get that? You're standing on an altar. If you could just rattle those words off, just rattle them off, then you really need to rethink it. That's just me making a commentary, but so you know what I mean?
Well, no, but that's a big commentary, okay? Because it's become yet again one of these disposable contracts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that should not be the way it's taken. Very simply, and I understand there's a legal aspect to it, and it is a contractual agreement, and I get all that. But you know what? I've conducted two ceremonies fully.
Mm-hmm.
One of them had no legal contract whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
One of them did. Okay. And I'll tell you this, that I actually was asked to perform. I've been asked to perform 5 technically, but 4 in a realistic sense.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 2, for one reason or another, did not come to fruition because you know what? My attitude was, because of the seriousness of it,
Mm-hmm.
Unless you guys are going to take and contemplate this, okay, and understand what it is you're doing, then I can't participate.
Yeah, which
Very simple.
Which leads to my second question I asked him, was, are you going to be getting a license from the state? I didn't, tell them what my opinion, but whatever they answer with is going to weigh heavily on my decision because I have very, 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 very strong convictions about getting a marriage license with the state. Very strong. And so, depending on what they come back with, that'll make a determination because I'm not going to like rubber stamp a marriage because if I'm going to be like, I don't want to say representative or middleman for God, in a marriage, if I'm his representative, okay, for that moment or whatever, his power of attorney, so to speak, I don't want to rubber stamp a relationship, because marriage, look, marriage license, why are you getting a license to do something that's already legal? Doesn't the root or the etymology of the word license come from licentiousness? Why do you need a marriage license? It makes, and anybody with a marriage license with the state, tell me how your divorce went. Did it go smooth? Did you enjoy it? Did you lose anything? Oh, okay. We'll get back to, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Right.
I heard a comedian the other day. He said that once you get married, every single day you're just building a case. And it's my opinion that on a materialistic level, when you go and you get a license with the state, you're making a contract with a third party, which makes you a polygamist. They have a vested interest in anything you produce, your children, which gives, all these, what do you call it, DFACS, Department of Family and Children Services, the authorization to monitor what belongs to them, your children. And if they don't like the way that you're keeping their inventory, then it's, they're going to take it away. But even going up to the spiritual, it's my personal belief that if you have a marriage license, and I'm sorry if anybody gets offended, if you've got a marriage license from the state, that there's a blood curse on your marriage that goes all the way back to Papa Pope. Sorry if anybody's offended, but that's just what I believe. It's a curse to get a marriage license. A curse. And that's not me making a misogynistic kind of poke at the institution of marriage. True marriage is what I believe in. And you can't have a marriage license permission from the state over a true marriage. To me, that's just the totally opposite of what marriage is supposed to
be. Now I'm waiting for Sherry's legal mind to chime in here.
Well, I know. I'm sitting here. I'm like, well, there's so many different aspects of the way you can play the law. And this is one of the things that I'm learning now more than ever, is that if you take one stance and you roll with it all the way through, you get one result. But when you start to look at things from a different perspective, the alternatives change. And so I'm probably not much in a position to talk about marriage because as I'm choking all over on it,
That's That's what she said.
Oh my God.
Sorry,
I totally set myself up for that. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then she coughs him.
I know.
Yeah.
I had to like.
Oh.
Sorry.
Wait a minute, Sherry. Do you know how you just made that so much worse? I was trying to.
I know. I
That's
can't
a
help
point.
myself. I
That's
know.
gonna be a
Daniel
point.
brings out the worst in me. He does.
Worst in me.
He does. He's like the angel of everybody, and he brings out the worst in me.
Ridiculous. Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna
Anyway,
be.
I don't like marriage. I don't agree with it. I think it's not something that people should do. I think it's a contract that puts you in a place of ownership if you are female, and that you should probably just reconsider that whole ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, congratulations.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I mean, it's an honor to be asked. It really is. But you have to put the minister mask on, and you have to become that role, And so I've because in my belief structure, I'm a Romans 14 kind of guy. I just create my own religion, so there's no way I can convert anybody. So I have different rituals and methods for everything that I do. Clearly, it'll be different from a Baptist wedding. I'll tell you that. But it's like I want it to be serious because it's a serious thing, And so I have to fulfill the role until I perform it. But so is that the real me? Like if I'm chilling, doing Netflix and chill, am I not being spiritual? You know what I mean? So it's like, who am I? And we all ask that question. But segueing in cleverly back to Nutshell. Awkward pause.
No. Yeah.
So no, like with that thing, the documentary Nutshell, I guess, yeah, they know that it's out there. It was cool because it was like, whenever Chuck was hanging out with me, staying at my place for a little bit, we shot that documentary over, what was it, 3 months?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for not including any of the comments about this particular topic that you could have from the footage. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it was like, whenever I remember the night that we sat down and we kind of
he turns those into separate podcasts for me, Chuck. I'm just going to tell you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say. Okay.
Okay, now I know why you've been fighting with me lately. Okay, got it. Cool. Okay. Go ahead, Daniel. I don't want to interrupt your train of thought.
Which one? No. That reminds me of a joke.
Yes.
I don't know. Okay, so never mind. I better. Yeah, I will tell the joke anyway. It's not really a joke. It's just something that happened. I thought was funny. Is that okay?
Of course, of
Okay,
course.
yeah. I was recently, and you know me, man. I'm real tolerant about other people's beliefs. If they're not pushy with me, I'm not pushy with them. Whatever. But dude, one of my worst pet peeves is like really tacky Christian music. I get it. I understand. It says Jesus' name a lot and everything, and you really like it because it makes you feel like Jesus is in the room with you. But some of the music is just so horrible. You know what I'm saying? I'm nothing against Christianity or Christians or anything like that, but they really need to up their game with their music and their lyrics and everything. Not every song that like a Christian band puts out has to have Jesus' name in it. You can write other stuff in your lyrics. Also, all I'm saying, okay? So it's like, dude, I couldn't help myself. I had to listen to hours and hours and hours of that the other day. And it was like this choir with a piano, and the singers were tacky, and it was all like, worthy is the Lamb, oh God Almighty, right? And I just couldn't fucking take it anymore. So I stood in the doorway and I said, is the lamb worthy, Clarice? Is the lamb?
You're going to hell.
And awkwardly walked away. Anyway, so back to Nutshell. Um, Nutshell.
Wow.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
He's so bad. Everybody in the churches, they're trying to figure out how to get you into an exorcism.
Hey, never mind.
Yeah, but have you ever been brought up for exorcism, Daniel? I know I have.
At my uncle's funeral, the preacher who performed his funeral he was a Southern Baptist, began asking, because I had like hair down to my ass then, I was fucking wearing, excuse my language, was wearing bell bottoms and all that good stuff. It was, and I'm not even from the 70s, but I was wearing bell bottoms. You get it. I was a Led Zeppelin fan. What do you want me, So I'm sitting in the audience. The audience, do you have an audience at a funeral? I'm not sure if you have an audience at a funeral. I'm sitting in the pews in the crowd in the morning section. I'm not quite sure. I'm with the people who were supposed to be crying.
Right.
But it just, because of who the dead person wasn't really close to him, so it didn't really emotionally affect me. And because I was the only one not crying and looked a little off, maybe a little all black wearing ish, the Baptist preacher like started asking family and friends who I was, because I was possessed by a demon and needed to be like dealt with. Okay, and I don't know how you do that in the Southern Baptist branch, but it sounds like
Okay.
exorcism to me. So yeah, I guess so.
Okay, no, it's cool. I was just curious because the best people I know have been offered up for exorcisms, and I happen to be one of them. So, of course, I was 5 at the time. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. No, me and my demons get along, man. So,
Oh no, listen, it wasn't me and whatever having the problem. It was everybody around me apparently. But go ahead. Yeah.
It's a different topic.
Right.
But no, yeah, when we were doing Nutshell, it was like, even the name came up. I didn't want to misrepresent you. I did want people out there who were going to watch it to kind of see you in a way that I see you. But it was difficult to kind of go, okay, how much of Chuck do I want people to see? You know what I mean? From my perspective, and how much is appropriate, you know what I mean? Because you let people in your experience at certain levels. So it's like, how much of Chuck should be shown? I want it to be honest. I don't want it to be fake. I want the real Chuck O'Celli to be seen, because that's kind of what me and you agreed we were going to do with it. Is show you who you really were and why you do what you do. Okay? And so that's kind of what we put basically over the 3 months we put it together. And there was a lot of extra footage, as there always is going to be, but editing sucks, because you, as the person who shot it, think everything should go in there. Editing sucks. But so I wanted to show like who you were, but I didn't want to gloss you over. If we would have had a bigger budget, which our budget was, whatever, and all these big paid-for cameras from Hollywood, I could have glossed you up, put some glitter on you, and sold you as a product, right? And
Right.
the only thing about it is it's a cool 1 hour of getting to see the process of what you do every night, why you do it, and talking a little bit more off the cuff and personal than you do on the radio, than you can on the radio. You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't know. I was happy with it because I thought that at the end of the day, yeah, there's some sides to you I didn't feel was appropriate for everybody to see, and then some I was. But at the end of the day, I think that documentary really, really sums up who you are as a real, genuine human being. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, uh, Even like the name Nutshell, me and you both agree. I think it took us less than 5 minutes because we were listening to like Pandora or something, and Alice in Chains' Nutshell came on. And we were both almost at the same time. Nutshell, that's the name of it, because it's Chuck
Oh yeah.
Ocelli. Yeah, it's Chuck Ocelli in a nutshell. It's like who is it and what's it about? You know. So I
Well,
was
plus
happy
if
with it.
you listen to those lyrics, you hear some of the foreboding attitude that sometimes really does drive this, which is I'm not happy about the status of the situation,
Hmm.
and need to do something
Hmm.
to change it. And the only thing that I've ever found effective for changing anything around me has always been to speak and to implant ideas into people's minds. And I've done that. I mean, I used to convince grown people of things when I was a child, as a matter of survival, because I would speak to them in a certain way that they didn't hear other people speaking to them. And it was just one of those things, right? And if you listen to the lyrics of that song, it's kind of tells you about what it's like when I'm kind of in a down mood,
Hmm.
but which you got to see as well. And honestly, I was not in a happy space
Mm-mm.
when outside of the footage where you see me picking up my son. Um,
I'll tell anybody who's listening what you see in that documentary, because at the point in both of our lives where we came into each other's physical experience rather than just the internet.
mhm,
If people out there want a really good mental image, picture a bunch of monks around a beautifully crafted mandala destroying it
mhm.
right before they begin another one. That is that little documentary nutshell. It's Chuck Ocelli at a transitory stage in his life, being destroyed to be recreated. It's pretty sand.
That's pretty wild, man. I didn't see, and look, and I really do want to thank you once again for putting in all the work that you did, and getting it out there. It is up on the website now, and out on YouTube. I don't know. You have it on your channel. I haven't been taking a look at how many people are viewing it or whatever. Or God help me, I don't want to look at the comments. Because you ever see when people talk about the comments on YouTube, it's like, okay, something racist, something
Yeah.
inappropriate, spam. Okay, hateful comment for no apparent reason. Okay, like you got to go through all that until you get to somebody that actually watched the thing and tells you something they think about it. So I haven't even looked at any of that stuff. Have you gotten any reactions or feedback about it?
Man, I hardly pay attention to that stuff. I don't have as many subscribers to my YouTube as you do. So I don't get as many comments, and even if I did, I really wouldn't pay that much attention to them.
Mm,
I see a few, I suppose, but it's like somebody's always going to be a critic, and you know what I mean. That's just a given, dude.
yeah.
There's always going to be some dude out there who is just going to piss on a parade just for the sake of doing it. And so when that starts to happen for me, as far as YouTube comments and stuff, I might peek in on it, but at the end of the day, everything that I do, create, write, record, whatever, I'm doing it for my own enjoyment in hopes that other people enjoy it, you know?
Mm.
So,
Which does lead us to the discussion of the torrents and all that stuff, because some of those come out in batches. Seems like, along with the podcast. Interesting titles, though. I loved how you described how you title stuff. What? Wait a minute. What were the last couple? I'm trying to think of the one I really liked recently, but name a couple of the most recent ones.
Sherry gets her period.
Sherry gets her period. There you go. And now
Yeah,
we bring
don't be
Sherry back.
jealous. Don't be jealous. I've got a couple really good ones out there.
Periods? Or
Yeah,
A couple
that's
of really
what I was
good
talking
periods.
about, Daniel.
you are torrent gold. Yeah. Sherry makes
Yeah.
for good torrents.
Yeah,
Wasn't there
those were
one?
great. I got a couple of really good ones out there.
Yeah, there's another one where like she loses her mind or whatever. I forget what it was. Losing your mind with Sherry, or what was it called?
That was the
Something about Daniel's voice, I believe. Yeah.
listen to the sound of my voice. How to put Sherry in a trance.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I had to put Sherry into a hypnotic trance.
Yeah.
Um,
I got to be careful what I say because, like I said, it gets turned into a 1-minute pod that is quite amazing. Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah. They're quite hysterical, and I really do laugh a lot. And then I every time think, God, that'd be really funny if it was somebody else. I'm just gonna say.
it's just like we still regret the 3-day rule, don't we, Sherry?
Yes,
But you know
I
what I
have
think?
to regret that now.
So no, with the torrents, man, because it really those what torrents are. They're the inside jokes. You know what I mean? They have if it wasn't Chuck or me or you, Sherry, listening to those, the people who listen to those have no context whatsoever.
Oh no, they don't.
No.
I'm dying.
Yeah.
But yes,
So-
yes.
But people think they're hilarious with no context. And it's
Oh,
like
they were great. Oh yeah, because a couple of my good friends that I'm not going to mention, they thought they were so hilarious that they started spreading them around to my other good friends, and boy, that was really fun.
it is fun. I love doing them. But yeah, the reason they come out in batches, Chuck, is after I launched the podcast and I had so much back material recorded, I had to get those full length podcasts done. But sometimes it depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I'm in a really serious mood, sometimes a spiritual mood. Sometimes it was that CDID that we were talking about, controlled dissociative identity disorder. It's like you'll get a different Daniel depending on what day you catch me. Is he going to be funny, serious, spiritual? What's he going to be? Angry? So it's like sometimes in the middle of a 2-hour radio show, there's 5 minutes or less of something absolutely brilliant that's said that if you don't have a 2-hour attention span, you'll never ever get to hear. Something that could change your life. So I cut up the longer podcasts into those short ones, and and the same thing goes for 5 minutes of absolute hilarity. Thank you, Sherry.
You know what I've been thinking about this whole time actually is the one thing that I dread about some of the stuff that you've cut up, and in fact some of the shows I've done. The one thing I dread is that Frankie is he'll be 3 shortly, and I'm planning on taking him to places to play with other children. There's not too many other children around where we're at right now, but I intend to find places for him to play with other kids. I am in a way dreading and in a way also looking forward to the day that somebody connects some of the stuff I've done on the shows or in the torrents with that guy sitting there with that kid, and it's just another parent.
Yeah.
You can see how this could be equally entertaining, but also a little frightening, can't you?
Yeah. That's what, dude. That's why you know me, man. I'm an open book. So it's like that. Yeah, that would be awkward. Like if you were at, say, a church group and they had just got finished listening to us read about internet horrors.
Right. Yeah.
And they're looking dead at you. Here's what it would equate to. I'm at Walmart yesterday and I'm getting like dinner, right? And I can't say their name. I don't even know their name, but somebody from a recovery group that I go to, an anonymous group or whatever. Not anonymous,
okay.
but
no, I know what you mean though.
Yeah.
Somebody, let's put it to you this way: somebody who, if Daniel was going to one of those places like AA, but not necessarily AA, obviously nobody is supposed to acknowledge that another person goes without their permission, et cetera, because they are Alcoholics Anonymous. In fact, not the anonymous, hacker group or anything like that. But there's supposed to be anonymity so that there's freedom inside of the rooms, et cetera, et cetera. So. Yeah. What you're going to do is you can, and that's always uncomfortable, just forget about the radio or anything else, because now you may be able to acknowledge somebody in public or you may not. So there's a little bit of a...
Yeah, it's just weird.
It's a weird thing to begin with, but...
It's like,
Yeah.
are we in a secret society? What do we do? Do we got a secret handshake? What do we do? Do we just ignore
It's
each other?
like, does your current wife know that you are a recovering junkie or not? Does
Yeah.
does the sister of the whoever you're with happen to know that you were somebody who used to drink and fall down in the gutters? Does can I acknowledge that I know you from somewhere and now you have to explain me?
Yeah.
A lot of interesting juxtapositioning going on there in that little dance. So enter
Yeah.
this situation you're talking about. I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm at Walmart. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get like a pan of lasagna and some ice cream, And so I go to the checkout line, and I pass one of the fellow AAers or whatever, recoveries, whatever. And we both go to the self checkout. We've said nothing. There hasn't even been a nod. There was like a brief exchange of a glance, like, then your internal computer's like checking for facial recognition. Who is this person? Beep 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 beep. Alcoholics Anonymous. Beep 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 beep.
Eyes literally locking for slightly less time than you
Yes.
would if you had a one night stand with a woman and
Yes.
haven't seen her in 2 years.
Yeah.
That's about the amount of time that your eyes locked with this person. Go ahead.
Right. And so, that brief slow motion second ends, and then you're like, okay, get back to task. Task is scanning on the self-checkout, so you scan on the self-checkout, and then you put your items in the bag, and then you kind of briefly glance around the where the checkout area is. You see that he is in front of you at a different checkout, and then all of a sudden he cranes his neck around, right, and locks eyes with me, and then I
Right.
hear like the fistful of dollars, cat theme, the Clint Eastwood thing. And then I watch, like, meow, 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 and then he looks down into my bag to see, like, if there's a 12-pack, or in my case, like a 24-pack in the bag. And I'm
Oh,
like,
no, wait a minute. Now pause. Because, see, here's the, am I going to bust somebody with beer now who's supposed to be sober?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Are they smoking a cigarette or is that a joint? What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Nah,
So
buddy.
the tension is rising up here and nobody is hearing this or seeing this. I mean, somebody who's an observer like me, occasionally I watch these little tensions go on between people, but I got to tell you, for the most part, everybody is completely oblivious to what's happening here, except the two of you. I love this. Go
Yeah.
on.
And so, like, it's registering that's what he's doing in my head. I'm like, this dude's checking my bag, man. He's like, customs or something. He's checking to see if I'm, like, off the wagon or whatever. Because as a recovered person, you're never, ever, it's always going to be on the back of people's minds. Always.
And you almost feel like you're going to be asked, excuse me, sir, were your bags unattended at any point during the day, or did someone else possibly pack your bag?
Yeah, dude, like, if you-
TSA, go on.
Yeah, if you sleep past noon or if you show up late to something, they all, he's off the wagon, and it's like, it can get fun. After a while, it can really get fun because you could screw with people, it's real cool. But for the most part, yeah, it's like, oh, they're back off the wagon or whatever. So this dude's like checking out my bag. And I'm going like, dude, that's got to be in the big book somewhere. You can't do that, right? Like, nah, man, ain't no Pabst Blue Ribbon in there, dude. There's some Stofers and some brown cows. Get your ass on.
Let's be honest. In Georgia, they're looking for some steel.
Yeah.
Oh,
That is
God,
liquid crack.
stuff. Oh my God.
Liquid crack. What
It's
that is.
for those in other parts of the country. There's these big beers which are I don't even know how to describe them. I mean, like we literally had stuff up in the Northeast that people called liquid crack as well. There was Green Lightning. There was all sorts of malt liquor, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But this stuff, Steel, is like the closest thing to rot gut beer I have ever tasted. And I did taste it here in Georgia. I just want to tell people that. Go ahead.
You know it's bad when the bottle's made of plastic for your drunk ass.
Oh, yeah. And every bottle is plastic. There's no glass, steel, because they're assuming you're dropping that bitch. I mean, that's simple.
They don't want any more deaths attributed to glass, cutting throats and stuff.
Yeah,
So-
you are not going to be a functional drunk if you're buying steel. Go ahead.
So, so yeah, I would imagine that being like a radio guy, and then later somebody's like, "Oh, that's Chuck Ocelli and his kid over there. That's the walrus fucker dude." It's a lot like seeing a recovered person at Walmart. I don't know.
Yeah, I can imagine
A
that. And
recovered person at Walmart.
can you believe that we ran out of time here?
Chuck Ocelli's a recovered person at Walmart. That's great.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, Daniel Lewis Crumpton, the guy behind downloadedcontent.com, Sherry Wisdom with me for this particular ride, going shotgun on a Wednesday, and Mark Windows in the first hour. We did some intense discussion and we had to have some fun in the second hour. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. The Ocelli Effect will be back tomorrow night with Jordan Maxwell. Anyway,
Yeah,
take
see,
care, everybody.
I'm Chuck Ocelli's whore. He has serious guests on the first hour, and I'm just for fun in the second.
Well, somebody's got to do it. Take care.
You're the new whore.
Downloaded content podcast. Downloaded content.